Hi guys, Victoria here. Yeah, you're seeing me in my fine and dandy here. No makeup, ready to go, just want to sew, I don't care how it works. So, what am I doing today? I'm working on the silks and I've pretty much left them on my wall as they were up there the other day. As I start to sew them together, I may make changes as I'm floating things around, moving them. But I thought I would just show you briefly how I start sewing some of these pieces together. So, this is what I do. Basically, I'm looking at the layout that I already have up on the wall, and I'm finding pieces that I can already see will line up and go together very quickly. So, for instance, I've sewn these three pieces together, and when I sew them, I leave so that I can sew a split seam together. So I sew up the entire seam across the back, and I'm leaving about 1.5 inches every time, so that way when I add another piece in, then I finish sewing that seam afterwards. So that's sort of one little block that I start with. I stick it back up there. For instance, these two pieces, I like the way they are, so I'm going to definitely just sew these together. Take those right now, and you can see this is not as long as this one, so I'm going to there goes a few on the wall. I'm going to take this one with and add it to this first. I can remember how I had this all together. This is also longer than the piece that I'm going to be sewing on, so I'm also going to leave a little flange there also. Just a 1/4 inch seam, a nice tight stitch. Again, leaving that little flange so that I can add later to it. Put these guys together. Like I said, these already have the nice backing on the silk, so they got a little extra stabilizer there. They go together really nice. Yeah, this is how I get so much done. I don't know if you guys have a Juki, but this thing sews like 1,000,000 miles per hour, and I love it. That's really my secret, how I get so much done. I'll go back later and I'll press everything, but for the moment I'm just sewing together a few sections at a time. Now 2 seams is nice, makes a nice little chunk of the quilt. And I can hang that back up here. This gives me an idea as things start to shrink where I'm going to have to fill in and add extra pieces of silk to make things work out. Where's my pins? Pins back up. For instance, when I sew this piece in, you can see that there's going to be about a 3-inch square before I can add another piece. So I have a couple little pieces of silk. I did, anyway, have them in here. Here's like a little 3-incher, like I could stick this little guy in there. Again, always leaving my little flange there so that I can add in the next block that it's going to go into. So you kind of start just making a few pieces at a time and then seeing how the whole thing's going to fit together like a puzzle as you go. So if you haven't tried a split seam, that's something you should try to tackle. Take 15 minutes to learn how to do that little trick, and every time you do it, it's going to get a little bit easier, and it expands your palette of tools that you're using, and the choices that you have in the blocks that you make are going to grow and get better and better every time. More interesting blocks, more complicated blocks, and before you know it, you'll be doing, the 2,000-piece complicated curves, Y seam, the works. So you guys just keep on trucking, and I'll see you later. Bye.